Welcome, Tasha. Thank you for being here, agreeing to do this segment with me. I'm so grateful.
Mhm.
Um, and I've had the pleasure to have the chance to work with you for inside one of my programs. So I want to invite you to come on to get a little bit insight to how
Mhm.
that was for you. Also, your experience with how shamanic journeying has perhaps elevated your work, your business or your personal power. So,
Mhm.
without further ado, I want to
Mhm.
dive into this juicy conversation
Let's do it.
with starting to ask you, how did you come to doing the work that you do right now? For my understanding, to coming into the channeler that you are.
hmm Yes. Well, as always, it started with my awakening. So, who I am right now, what I'm doing out in the world is that I see myself as an intermediary between like humans, and then when people wake up, and then what is that life? Like, what is life like once you kind of have your grand spiritual awakening, and then that process of embodiment? That's where I come in. And so the phrase is, when the student's ready, the teacher appears. And that's what's been happening. And so I refer to myself many different titles, but spiritual embodiment coach, ascension guide, all of these things. And I'm a very natural channel. I channel actually from the center of the galaxy, and it's even in my birth chart. So all that to say, once I kind of woke up and understood a little bit more of why was I getting this information and how on earth was it making sense, it wasn't meant to make sense. It was just to be embodied through me and then connected to the people who I magnetize to myself, and then also who call me to speak to them, because there's a message there for them. So that's kind of how I am and who I am and how I got here.
Wow, that is so beautiful. There's so many layers to your work. Like I get the sense of it right away. So then I guess like in the context of our conversation too today, I want to
Mhm.
ask you, have you shamanic journey before we met?
Before we met, yes, unofficially. I had no idea that's what it was called. Excuse me. I was brought into shamanic journeying on my own. I was having visions, and I would just find myself in a position to where I would just like fall into place and then sink in and then go on that journey. And it was very led from the inside out. So when I joined the group, and I hope I'm not skipping ahead, but when I joined your group and you led us through that, I was like, oh, okay, there's others like me, like this is a thing. I've done guided meditations and I've done visualizations and stuff like that, so I wasn't necessarily alien to shamanic journeying, but I had no idea it was such a powerful thing, especially when done collectively.
Ooh, so
I know.
juicy. Oh my gosh. It's so funny now that we're in conversation. I didn't know this about you. So it is through
Mhm.
your own awakening and your own connection with
Yes.
your channel
Yes.
that you've been guided in that way. Oh, okay. So, so many questions. I guess
Uh-huh.
we'll just do one question at a time to get
Yes,
into the
ma'am.
juicy bit. So, I
Yes.
guess let's rewind a little bit. I want to know
Uh-huh.
then what has got you to decide that you want to work with me?
mm. How did I It had to have been through Louisa. Had to have been through Louisa. So there's an astrologer that I follow on YouTube, Louisa Feel Good Astrology, and I'm fairly certain there was she mentioned you in one of her shows, and I was like, and I guess that's how it had to have been. So anyway, I somehow we got connected. She may have invited me. Either way, when I joined and that first meeting and I heard you speak, and as is happening in this conversation, I'll say something that's in your mind or something will drop in your mind or whatever. And the way that our energies flow together, I was like, well, I'm in. Well, I'm in. Or we might have been on a, that's what it was. It wasn't the initial group that I'm in. It was something you had done like a one day, like a one time experience. I think that's what we were invited to. Louisa and I were both in that experience. That's when I met you. And then I joined the branding course. So that's kind of how I found you. You found me.
It is so magical because that's just how we come to connect so mysteriously as it seemed, but then
Right.
also makes so much sense at the same time. Oh, that
Yes,
is so
ma'am.
funny. That is so funny. So then I want to know, were you afraid when I had asked you, hey, do you want to join this program with me? Like, what would have held you
Mm.
back from joining at that point?
I wasn't afraid, Whitney, but I was ignorant. I was ignorant. I felt that I had a soul knowing of what I was supposed to do in this world, and I was trying to figure out what did that look like, getting it from the ether down here onto earth. And so I had already kind of like poked into some branding courses and information. I was like, yuck, yuck, yuck. Like none of it felt like me. And so Soul Spark branding, when I heard about that, I was like, okay. And then you ask about the shamanic journeying, there was no fear or anything. I was like, okay, this is an approach that feels more in alignment and has more resonance with what I feel that I'm supposed to do in this world and how I want to present myself. And it's interesting because I wasn't afraid, but like I said, I was ignorant. I had no idea of what I would learn, and we'll get there. I had no idea of what I was going to learn in this course, but it has blown my expectations out of the water because I had expectations for one. And you like this course like has far surpassed that. So I wasn't afraid.
Oh my gosh, thank you, Tasha. I'm like
You're very welcome.
receiving all of it. I'm so
Please
happy.
do. That was my hope is that like because I know my gifting is speaking and I can type it out all day long, but that energetic vibe that people receive when we articulate something through our mouth, through our words, through our energies in the spoken word, it just there's nothing like it, in my opinion.
Oh, and from everything that I have come to learn about you,
Mhm.
that is such a gift. Like it's such a
Thank
rare gift that
you.
you have, I think, that you literally speak magic and you speak
Mm,
that energy into
thank you.
others. And this is why you're the channeler. I don't
Yeah.
know if you like the title of the channeler, because that's just how I come to learn of
Yes,
the
ma'am.
type of work that you do.
Yes,
And
ma'am.
I knew that very, very beginning when we first
Really?
connected. Yeah.
You
Yeah.
felt it?
Yeah.
Oh, thank
Okay, so this is great. I have more
you.
questions. I guess, what, let's just start off with what type of results have you gotten from our work
Hmm.
together so far?
Hmm. So when I joined Soul Sparked Branding, I had an idea. I thought, like I said, results that I've gotten, it's far less than the tangible things for me. Yes, I have those, and yes, I have everything written down. I have my homework. I have my homework done, and posting it in the appropriate places. However, the tangible result is the connection of the group. And I've said that in the group a million times, but for those who are listening to this, for me, that energetic safe space is what
Mm,
Tasha needed to be able to bounce and actually activate on those things that I had written down. So that's the tangible result. The inner I was going to say resolve, but that's not it. The inner just like steadfastness that I have, knowing that, for example, I went into that class one of those weeks and just cried, like ugly cried. And like the way that I was held and met right exactly where I was going through a spiritual purge that readied me for now the clients that are knocking on my door, dropping on my lap, asking, how do I work with you? My soul has led me. People like are saying and using the words that I use. So that's how it's tangible now. It's tangible in that I found my center, did the work, did the human 3D portion, but I found my center, and then that tangibly is returning itself in the 3D. Yeah.
Oh, and
You did that.
oh my gosh, no, you did, but I'm so grateful.
Co-creative.
Yes, co-create. We do co-create. And I'm just really, really so happy that the container held you, right?
Yeah.
And what a testament to the type
Mm,
of leadership you hold, because, speaking to helping others in an embodiment, and that's what you have done there. And so
thank you.
eloquently put, that's
Mm,
was your process, and that's
yeah.
what you do. So I guess
Yeah.
this leads to also the question is, how have you experienced shamanic journey and maybe taking you in the way that you work? Has it
Hmm.
elevated the way that you connect or personal power to come through?
Absolutely. So before, when I was still working a traditional 9 to 5, I used to lead guided meditations and guided visualizations. Okay. And I did that because we were doing affirmations and we were doing things that would help like reorient people and like setting intentions on like a Monday morning. Those were all good. For Tasha, they're filling, but it felt one dimensional to me for what I do on my own. Now that I started my own business and I have my own thing, I'm like, oh, we get to go deeper now. And so
Yeah.
shamanic journeying, I have actually incorporated it into my work. And it's phenomenal because I didn't have the level of self-trust to take it from a guided visualization to the actual real energetic journey, and that's what I experienced with you. And it almost reinforced the fact that this is something we always do, but it helps me as a facilitator of those journeys really know and bring that client there to the level that they are ready to go to. So I've already incorporated it with your lead because of the impact that your journeys that you've led me on in that container, the power that they've had. It helped me to know that I can also channel in that similar timbre of a journey. So that's it.
Oh, Tasha, I'm so happy to hear.
Are you words of affirmation? Is that one of your love languages? Because like the way you receive it, you get giggly. So I get giggly. I'm like, oh, I'll slather it on even more. you know, it's important. It's important.
It is. It is. Well, I just get the giggles because I'm like, it just
Right.
makes me so happy when to me, that's you portraying how you step more fully into your own power. And when you do that, it comes with that level of unspoken trust.
Yes.
Right? Do you feel that
Yes.
solidifying the
hmm
trust in yourself?
hmm
And especially when you work in the energy, it's really about sometimes is to what's a good word to differentiate your filters and to differentiate the collector, not collected, but the collective energy, and then to
hmm
really grapple into what you know as the source energy.
Yes.
So when you go into that deeper level of connecting, you get a taste of those different levels.
Mm.
Let's just call them different levels of consciousness, because when you
Yes.
dive into
hmm
the higher level of your own, then you be able to
hmm
differentiate and be able
Yes.
to decipher that energy.
hmm
So I
hmm
don't want to
hmm
label or categorize, but that's kind of how I could best describe the difference of that deeper work.
Yes. 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 I love that. I think it's
So,
beautiful. Well, really quickly, what comes to mind is I used to teach brainwave states. When I was
oh,
teaching, because I'm a nerdy, I'm a nerd, right? But I used to teach brainwave states, and as we go from gamma, alpha, beta, theta down to delta, those are different states of consciousness. So delta is that deep sleep where you're out, and we've got people in our
yeah.
group who they're out, but they still get the benefit, right? That spiritual benefit. But that theta is right there, that dream, like where we go, and that's where we get to tap into the consciousness, the oneness. And I think the self-trust of the facilitator of the journey helps to create the space to where that person can then really drop in and then trust that they are actually alchemizing some of those shadows that are deep within those places.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
Thank you for breaking it down in that way because it's so,
hmm
I love it when science is catching up, right? To what we know as
Absolutely.
the science bit so that you get to talk to it and align with it. But there's just so much
Absolutely.
more beyond that we
hmm
don't know yet, but we're tapping in.
hmm
I know this is a bit of a side note, but however, the traditional shamanic practice of ayahuasca.
Yeah.
Right. To me, my
hmm
understanding is that's kind of bypassing the brain because
Is
that it's
it
activating, yeah, it's using plant medicine to activate the TMI or TCI, that part of the brain.
interesting?
Yes.
Okay.
And that's why through the plant medicine to take you into that state of consciousness, to go
Uh-huh.
straight there, because it's really chemicals in the brain. But
Interesting.
but then when you actually get into the practice of shamanic journeying into that energetic,
Mhm.
guiding you into connecting, if you were to study the brain, that's the state
Mhm.
that you would be activating, and
Right.
you would be able to identify, however you look
Mhm.
at those scans. That's kind of the
Dang.
same.
Uh-huh. Mhm.
So,
I've never used ayahuasca, and I've never felt drawn to it. And there's no judgment. Like I utilize other plant medicines, but ayahuasca is one that I've just never felt called to. So very interesting to hear that. Yeah, there's a little bit of psychological responsibility we must take when we consider those kind of journeys. So,
yeah. Oh, Yeah, one of my client actually has had asked me how I felt about it, and
Hmm.
my take is the same. Like I would love to try it one day myself as well, but I
Hmm.
haven't because you know why? It's who take you through that process, who's going to
Yeah,
hold
the
you in
guide.
that
Hmm.
process. The guide, it would be the critical point of that whole
Yes.
experience.
Interesting. Yeah,
Um,
I can see
so
that.
yeah, let me just come back. I digressed.
You're okay. It's your meeting. We'll go as long as we need to.
So then I want to ask you, Tasha, well, this is for my selfish
Let's
questioning
do it.
now.
Dive in.
Now, what would you say to somebody who's on the fence of working with me?
Mm-hmm. All right. To someone who is on the fence with working or in working with you, is to really, I would advise them to just get still and get quiet and see it, what is the resistance? Like if you're on the fence, is it financial? Is it an ego thing? Because our ego sometimes will bubble up and arise as fear or confusion because it doesn't want to be absolved. Because what you do, Whitney, is you actually lead us on a soul journey to which the ego must rest and take second seat or second back seat. So to someone on the fence, I'd say sit with yourself and understand, is it a thought that's arising or is it a gut knowing that this is not your time? And if it's, to that potential person, if it's not your time, no shame, right? And Whitney, I know you're like, okay, in right timing, it'll happen. But to that person who's on the fence, like, I think this is it, trust the journey. So again, I didn't know what I was getting into. So for me, I thought I was going to get A, B, C, D. This is how you do a soul spark business and your brand is in alignment and all these things. And that wasn't my takeaway. Like I said earlier, my takeaway was that sense of inner safety that I got in that community format in that container. So to once again the person on the fence, just sit with yourself, really distill it down. If it's money or something silly, like worry about that later. This is more of the soul journey and make it like it will make sense if it's meant for you to do in this time. So just to know yourself and then proceed accordingly and just do the next right thing. So that's always my advice is like take a beat and then just take that next step. That next step. So that's it.
Oh, I love it.
Of
Thanks, Tasha, for
course.
beautifully walked out the process,
Mm,
and thank you for that.
yeah. My joy, my pleasure. Thank you.
So for the next part of our meeting, I was wondering,
Mm,
um, are you open to sharing maybe a channel message for the audience
mhm.
watching?
I am. So just for give you context to the way that I'm able to pull through and the way that I channel, I'm a conscious channel. So a lot of our understanding of people who channel higher dimensional information can be where they go into a trance channel. And that's not the way that I do. I come through the intellect. It always comes through the intellect to make it make sense because the way that my particular channel goes is it's actually to appeal to the intellect but then really to resonate in the heart, in the soul. So in order for that to really feel open and for Tasha, for me to know that my psyche is still it's co-creative, right? Because the words have to come out. I put myself on the side. There has to be a prompt. So I'm going to put you on the spot and say, what's on your heart? What would these people, what would your collective, what would the people that your soul knows who's going to see this, what would they like to know? And I'd be more than happy to open myself up as an instrument because I'm a channel by instrument. I'm a speaker by instrument. I'm not polished out there trained. I am trained, but like that's neither here nor there. This is not public speaking. This is channeling. So for me, the way it opens up is to be prompted and then to be that vessel for the response. So yes, I'd love to.
Oh, thank you, Tasha.
Hmm.
Okay, so this is like right on point, actually. I had just finished the 5 days shamanic experience. I titled it Power of You. And the
Mm,
way the information came through was let's look at the different aspects of your power. So the intention behind the whole 5 day is to give some inkling to people where they could lead themselves so that they could bring their unconscious to the conscious and really make some shift to new realities, to new dimensions for themselves. And
Mm.
on day one was actually the power of your thinking. And that was the
See.
whole premise of that aspect, is that
Mhm.
whatever you can invite into your consciousness is through your beliefs. So it's like
Absolutely.
a dam, right?
Hmm.
So then I guess this will touch on a prompt, is how can you lead these intellects of opening up more and more of their own beliefs so they get to become even aware
Hmm.
of what is unconscious to them, so they get to
Yes.
shift.
I feel it. I feel it. I feel it. I felt the weight drop in as you started talking. So, where I'm going to start is the power of you. When you know who you are, when you know who you are, you don't meet your power. You embody it and you actually are your power. Your words, your communication, your gifts to this world are actually made of energy. And we know this now. We finally know this scientifically speaking. So when you know yourself, you know that you are just a flame walking through this earth, meant to light something on fire through your energetic expression. So when we look at our beliefs and when we look and seek to transcend the self, which our beliefs are just the self, when we look and we allow ourselves to dive into the subconscious, you have to meet the parameters of your thinking. You have to allow yourself to be pushed beyond what you believe to be true, to where you understand that you choose to rewrite the narrative in your brain to where, dare I go there? Yes, I do. To where you forget what fear feels like, to where death does not exist anymore. That is the power of you. And where we are in the collective is that many are now on fire, ablaze, not caring who sees them. And that's inspiring to others, to where I'm seeing, I get a vision. Oof, I'm seeing a light, fire, a lamp, and the door of the lamp is being opened. Yes. And people are finding a match and they're lighting their match on the fire that burns in your mind, in your heart, through your essence, through the work that you have in this world. So the power of you is allowing yourself to be refined by the fire, to understand that you are the fire. Ah, hold on. Hold on. I just felt the
Ooh.
pullback. I just felt the big pullback. So that's the message in totality.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. So that's how that
Ooh.
works. That's how the channeling works for me. So I get a catalyst, I get a cue, and then I'm gonna talk you through this. I get a cue, and then Tasha has to trust herself to bleh, if that makes
Mhm.
sense. So
Yes.
in light of, and I know what I said, and I can kind of sort of pull it up, like when you wake up from a dream and you can get pieces. So that's kind of how channeling is for me. But I know that I have to trust myself to open up a little bit, and then just to let it flow. And so that's how it works. And then when the channel or that that download is over, I feel the weight disappear, and I'm light again. And then just for cute, cuteness, for as like extra credit, bonus scenes, uh, I'm jazzed out. I'm jazzed out for like a good hour afterward. Like geeked out. It's just that high frequency energy. But anyway, that's it.
Wow, that was
Wow.
so powerful.
Thank you.
Oh my gosh, that was so amazing. And you know
Yeah.
what? It was perfect. It was perfect. And I had to
Thank
make
you.
notes, okay? So I'll tell you
Yeah.
what I had to make note of is when you said that it's like you light from this
Yeah.
lamp. I
Okay.
think you said
Okay.
lamp.
Hmm.
Right away, what came to mind, if you're into tarot, it's like the hermit.
Okay.
Okay, so the hermit, it's really the way shower, and you're holding out the light for now to show others how to get to the mountaintop, right?
Fun.
Yeah,
Okay. I'm
yeah.
vaguely familiar with tarot, but I've been like curious literally like the last 2 weeks. Like, I want to see how that works, So the fact that you brought that up
Ah,
is
oh,
confirmation.
oh my
Mm.
gosh, amazing. I
Yeah.
dabble into tarot too because it's not oracle deck where there's not a
Uh-huh.
message in it, but then it
Mm-hmm.
gives you a bit of a structure. So kind of like letting you into the energy, what it means for you at every
Gotcha.
time that you
Mm-hmm.
connect with that divination as a tool. So
I
now
love it.
the
Thank you.
lastly, before I wrap up, and thank you
Mm-hmm.
for that wonderful message. Oh, it just
Yeah.
I just feel like my soul is stirred.
Oh,
So like I'm
good.
fumbling with words right now. Where where can people connect with you?
Mm-hmm.
Where can they find you? And
Yes.
where can they connect with you so they can work with you?
Mm-hmm. I'm on all of the socials. So I'm on Facebook, I'm on YouTube, I'm on TikTok, I'm even on Instagram. I'm 44 years old, but yes, I'm on Instagram, kind of. So you can reach out to me, send me a message. I have my card, my link to my email address, and all these things in all of those different places. So there's a Bitly link in there, Tasha's card, and yeah, you can find me anywhere. I consider myself to be like the guru next door, very approachable. I'm just here. So if you're meant to work with me, you'll know it. And if you're meant to work with me, you'll find me, and we'll take it from there. So that's how that works.
Amazing. I'll sure to include
Thank
all
you.
the links so make it a little bit
Thank you.
easy.
Yes. Yeah. I'll send all that to you.
Thank you, Tasha.
Thank you, Whitney. I appreciate it. I'm honored.